Hey guys, Ben Labadie here again for another COVID conversation with Dr. Henry Svec. He is a psychologist. Henry,
Hi, man.
how's it going again this week?
Fantastic. I'm more optimistic this week. I don't know why, but for some reason I'm feeling it like other people, hopefully. And I think it's going to be a great week and a lot of good things happening. And hopefully we can help some parents now that school's canceled. I heard today.
Yeah, school's canceled. So a couple things here before we get started. You do pireporters.com there. It's a pretty good publication. What's that? $1.99 a month, and you
Well,
got
the first
your,
30 days are free and you can cancel
yeah.
anytime. Just put in 30 days, DAYS, 30, the number 30
Okay.
days. And it's free. And check us out. We investigate different things in our community. And you can also go to the Business Entrepreneur Weekly and use the same code. It's free for 30 days. And support our journalists. And yeah, it's $1.99 after that if you want, or you can cancel after the free time if you want. Thanks for that plug, by the way.
And we also do the Business Entrepreneur Weekly. If you guys want to catch us on the Live with Ben channel, we're going to do it back on my channel again. But I think a lot of people show up for this thing right here. Pizza and wings from Konstantino's here in Chatham.
And wings.
Yeah, everybody loves pizza. Everybody likes wings. So, hey, guys, do us a favor. Hit that share button. And if you want a chance to win a large pizza and a pound of wings, I think a woman named Shirley won last week. Loved it. So, yeah, just comment below. Say hi. If you have a question, throw it in. We're here to answer questions or, talk about things. And you could possibly win. I'll throw that up a couple more times. And let's see what we got so far. Hey, let's go. We got Becky's always here. I like Sean McIntyre. Yes, the two Seatown pimps. Okay, we're called pimps. Thanks again for this. Hi, Carly. How you doing? Hey, Sue. How are you?
Hi, Sue.
This topic is so important, especially during times like this. And Steve Brent looking for some pizza. And if you guys could do us a favor, hit that share button for us the odd time. Don't be scared. And as always, ask questions. So I really want to talk about, before people sneak in with some questions here, the gym, outdoor fitness, and youth sports and activity. I'd like to actually cover youth sports and activity because it's a big deal. It's a big deal to a lot of families. It's a big deal to a lot of kids.
Yeah, for children, I mean, you can remember growing up. I mean, for me, I only went to school to play sports, and it was just the thing that kept you going. It was like you got through it. You got out to recess, and we used to play British Bulldog, which apparently you can't play it today anymore. Did you play British Bulldog at school, Ben?
Everybody did, I think.
Really?
Yeah.
Was it okay? Was it legal, or did you have to hide it when you played?
I think you hit it. I think you hit it a little bit, but
so we loved it. We would go play floor hockey and everything. So in the summer, if you had a chance to play any sports, it was huge. And so taking that away from children is very difficult. I played Little League football when I was, I think, 12 or something. And I know we have a big Cougar football thing in Chatham, Canada. It's huge, and it's great for children to play and learn. And the thing I love about Little League football, and that was my thing at that age, it didn't matter what size you were. There's a position you can play. So I was called a little husky when I was kind of big. And so when you can't do certain things in football, there's a place for you. If you're a small, fast guy, there's a place. If you're everybody has a spot to play. So when we take that away in soccer and other sports, so we've got to find ways to be creative and bring that this summer to children, even though it's been canceled. And maybe we can talk about that today.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to know how many people, like my son plays soccer a lot, loves to get out, loves to do things. And I'd like to get him active doing that. Mm-hmm. And that means getting other kids together, getting parents to allow their kids to come out and play with my kids and practice soccer. I'd like to see anybody watching, would you allow your kids to participate? Again, things being done, let's assume everything's being done as safely as possible when these events or practices start up. But are they ready to send their kids out to practice? I know I am.
Why can't you do it, Ben? Why did they cancel the leagues other than the obvious because of the COVID thing? But why is it not okay to find another way to do it?
I think people are just scared and don't know what to do. So instead of doing anything, they do nothing. That's not really what I think is the best course of action. And, the minute I bring it up, the first question is, well, what about the rules of maximum 5 people? And then you get hit with a lot of obstacles. I think what you just have to do is do it and, pay the fee, whatever you get nailed with, if more people find it so bad. The thing is, when you do something, when you put kids out on a field, have them play like they normally have. And then when you get fined or something for putting that together, even though they're possibly doing it as safe as possible, I think the community rallies around the idea that that's kind of weird. That's kind of scary that that would happen and be shut down.
Yeah, I want to ask a question too, if I can. I was at the grocery store today. What is the appropriate thing to do when people are going the wrong way down the aisle? I was in the store today, and no offense, men, but it was all men. And I'm not trying to be sexist or anything, but these guys were lost looking for stuff that I don't think they'd ever been shopping. I shop all the time for the family. So I'm shopping for my mom and I'm shopping for us. And these people are coming the wrong way. And I'm thinking, okay, do I stop, turn around? But I'd be going the wrong way because they're going. So I just stood there and went by them and said, what are you going to do? And no one, they're just looking for salad dressing or something. They don't even see the thing on the, what are you supposed to do? That's my question. What's the appropriate thing to do when someone's coming to you? Remind them, say, hey, buddy, check the arrows, or what do you say? Like, what do you do?
You know, I think it's when I'm running, I'm doing a lot of running lately. I've 175 kilometers, and I'm seeing people on the sidewalk, and I go into stores also. And I think the number one thing to do is be aware, your own awareness, right? And there's going to be people that you run into that are unaware, right? They might be a little bit older and just kind of doing their own thing, and they really just didn't think of it. I think my mom would be kind of that type of person who would just be like, I need this, not too concerned about anything. And I think the number one thing that you can do is just avoid it yourself instead of correcting people. Because I think, I felt it was a little bit odd. I was going up the sidewalk, somebody was coming near, right? And would it be offensive to say, well, because it really is that you're assuming the other person has COVID.
I guess,
everywhere you go, you're assuming everybody has COVID. That's why we're taking the actions, right? There's no other reason to stay away from somebody if you don't think they did. So it is very, different. I think the best way I approach it myself is I just mind my own business, do my own thing. If somebody's doing it against the grain or going a different way, I just say, man, this is all new. Right. These are all brand new rules that we just came up with after our whole lifetime of different. So
it's all about the rules. I'm not afraid of getting it or anything. I'm just afraid of not following the rules and offending somebody. So I figure, well, the guy's already breaking the rules. I'll just tear by him, and I just kept going. They didn't care. I just kept going. But you don't breathe. I find myself not breathing when I'm close to people. It's getting weird because you think about it all the time. I don't know. I wonder how children are doing.
I think, my kids have been outside a little bit more lately. So that's good. They seem happier. I've been running with my boy, but there's nothing more he wants to do than play basketball and soccer. And, I sent my boy into the store to buy chocolate milk the other day and use the tap and do all the things himself, which I think people would give me a lot of crap for letting him do, being a 12-year-old.
I think we should plan a party. I think communities should plan parties for when this is over. I said that at the beginning. I said we should plan like pig roasts and get the breweries out there. Like we should do a lot of good things when this is over. And we should set a date. Like we should just say August 13th, we're going to have whatever. I know that's probably going to break a lot of rules and upset people, but I think people need to know something's coming,
Yeah, and I think Christopher Summerfield here who's made a comment, and if you choose to break the rules and someone dies or passes the illness to a family member, then how would the kids feel? And so when I tried to do something like a soccer practice, Christopher here, he has that opinion, and it's a same opinion as many other people. So he's not alone with that opinion. So if I were to start doing something with kids like a practice or running or a 5K event that's as safe as you can do, you're going to have a lot of that come at you. So you got to prepare for that.
But here's something, because this is one of the things you study and say, we have to study statistics. We hate them, but we have to study them as part of our training. And when you look at the number of COVID spiking cases, it's based on sampling size. So when Ontario wants fewer cases, they test less. So there's no standard amount of people versus random testing. So the only thing you apparently can look at is hospitalizations and unfortunately fatalities. And otherwise, the statistic doesn't tell you anything about COVID. It tells you that if it spikes, the next question should be, how many did we test today that we didn't test yesterday when it didn't spike? Because all you have to do to have a spike is test a lot of people. As soon as you test a lot of people, Ben, a lot of people are going to be positive for COVID.
Oh,
it doesn't mean it's a problem. It means we tested a lot of people. So the statistics get lost. I mean, I was watching CBC and they said something like we had a spike in one province of 8 people or something. Mm-hmm. Well, how many did you test to get the 8 people? Did you test 8 or did you test? I don't know. And so we have to be careful as well with statistics, because statistics are used to prove a point, which often isn't in the best interest of people or our health.
Yeah. And I think looking at that produce company locally, someone was sick, they tested the person beside them, they tested everybody. You test everybody, you get more cases.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I was in baseball little league in West Virginia in the 60s, practiced 3 times per week, super competitive. Yeah. So how do we get back to teen sports, youth sports, which is huge? And I guess how do we get people into that comfort level where they're okay with it? Right. Well, so you're going to have 2 sides, because the people going out to practice and participate are going to be ridiculed by a portion of the population. Right.
Well, that worries me. That worries me, because if you make a decision, if you're not affecting other people, like, I guess the other point is, if you do go out, what if you affect other people? Well, obviously, if you're sick, you're not going to go out, because you shouldn't go out if you got the flu or any other illness either. So other than that, where you're sick, I'm not sure what we're supposed to do. Here's one.
Okay. As someone in healthcare, the restrictions on loved ones that can be present when someone is passing away has been absolutely heartbreaking to watch. I love being in palliative care, but watching the family struggle when they can't be at their loved one's bedside is heartbreaking to watch as a caregiver. When you think about this, I just had an uncle pass away.
Wow.
He went to hospice and then passed away.
Yeah.
And nobody can visit. His own family couldn't visit. That's to me, that's crazy.
Jen, and Jen and the people that work in palliative care are special. I work in healthcare, but I would have a difficult time working in palliative care. And the fact that they do it is so amazing, and they appreciate what they provide people and their families, and they take that away from them, because it's a whole team. When we've all had perhaps people pass, and we're there for them, and it's a whole team concept. And so the palliative physicians, which are rare, and Jen and other professionals, they need all those tools. And part of it is the care of the family that's there. I sometimes I just say you have to go for it. I know you're not supposed to in a hospital setting or in an official palliative setting, but sometimes there's a need to do things to be with people. And I think we have to take those steps. There's certain times when you have to do that.
When does it go into somebody's mind where seeing somebody for maybe the last time is well worth whatever fine or price you have to pay?
It's having been through it when my father passed, it's very difficult, because you just don't, especially if you haven't had a lot of experience, like most of us personally, not professionally, but personally. So when you put the personal, Jen and myself and other people in healthcare, we're just people. We feel the same things. And I know when my father was passing, it was very difficult. So I think the thoughts are that you need to do what you have to do. It's very personal. The relationship you had with that person, the what you do at that time in their life, and with my dad, I mean, I knew I had to go. It's kind of personal, but I'll share it. We were all there, and I said, if I don't leave, this guy's not going to die. And he was in a lot of pain. He was unconscious. And as soon as I left, he died. He was not going to die in front of his kid. He wanted me out of there. Right. And I knew that, so I left, and he passed. And the staff were great, and what we had to do and everything. But I just think it's so personal for each person. I think what Jen's saying is to make it that personal, and the next step, or however they talk about it, you have to be able to honor those wishes. So I don't have an answer, Ben. It's a tough thing.
Yeah, it's a very tough thing. What else do we got to talk about? So it looks up here.
Can I ask something, though? I felt bad when someone posted that. What if you go out and do stuff because you think it's right, but you infect somebody, like you talked about, Ben? How do you deal with that yourself? If you organize a soccer league or something, and people come, and then someone gets sick, and they trace it, and they say, "Oh, we were at Ben's soccer league," and how do you deal with that risk and that thought?
Well, in my here, I'll go. What's going on in my mind is
Yeah.
I actually don't see the fear. I believe the risk is very minimal. I believe the risk with kids is very minimal. So everything is kind of, again, keep in mind, those watching, I'm not a scientist, I'm not a doctor of any type,
Mhm.
but I can, read, I can walk around, I can go to Bob's Food Basics, I can go to Walmart, I can go to these stores, and I can guarantee you, I can put on a better socially distanced practice
Mhm.
than going into that store. I believe outside, kids playing, not going near it, like practicing, right? We're not talking a game where they're pushing each other around or getting close. We're talking about practice. I believe I can do that safely. So with that, the parent, we all have to take some sort of responsibility. Everybody at this point knows that there's somewhat of a risk everywhere you go and everything you do.
Mhm.
So I believe we could keep it minimal. I believe it's possible. The possibility, the worst fear is, man, I did this, and because of this kid went to see a grandparent, that grandparent got it, and yeah, that's terrible. And but I believe the risk of that is so low that in my mind, I'm willing to try to put together a practice or somewhere for kids to do something. And those parents, when they go home, they have to, again, be safe with their own kids and who they're contacting and the vulnerable population itself. So we all know, people a little bit of 60 plus, they're probably going to be a little bit more in the risk area, right?
I think we have to respect parents' instincts and decisions on their children. So we can, you can have a different opinion, but you have to respect the self-confidence of a parent. If a parent chooses not to allow their children to play soccer for whatever reason, that's their choice. And if they allow them to play, that's their choice. And I think we have to start respecting the wishes of parents and let them do what we've always done, is let 99.9% of parents make decisions on the best interests of their children. And if they have questions, they ask them, and hopefully we can answer them. But in the end, it's that parent's decision, and no one has the right to, to value that and say it's not a good decision. And if you want, I believe in the, if my children were young, they're all grown up now, I'd be encouraging some kind of league or sport. I mean, our house
Yeah.
with three boys would have been rough. I don't know how that would have worked if we didn't have baseball, football, and everything else. So I think you have to listen to the parents, and with few exceptions, I mean, in most cases, I think the parents have to make this decision.
Yeah, I think there's got to be some, putting the responsibility back on at this point, especially. Everybody knows the risk. But again, when I look at something like Walmart or something like the grocery store, and you guys can go out and look at that grocery store, and if you think that grocery store can be open safely, which I believe it is, right? I'm not scared to go there. I believe it's
I'm
safe.
not scared either. I think
Okay.
it's
If you
yeah.
believe that, then you should be able to get your mind wrapped around the ability for kids to go out running and be safe. I mean, I think it's all possible. I think we have to have a little bit more imagination in this
So
of
how
what
did we
is
get to the
possible
point where
versus
we're so
what is
afraid?
impossible.
So how did we get to the point where we're so afraid of everything? I mean, like when you think about it, it just takes one breach of a rule and everybody's supposedly going to get COVID, right?
Hmm.
So how
Yeah.
do you, I mean, the president's White House got COVID.
Yeah.
Trudeau's wife got COVID. You can do all the things you want, and it seems like it still happens. So is this really making a difference? We don't really know because the studies are correlational, right? No one took a community and did a random sample of people who stayed in and went out and compared the rates of COVID and hospitalizations. We've never done any science. There'll never be science on this. It's correlational at best. It seems like because we're staying in, we're saying that's causing COVID not to be a problem. We don't know that. There's no
Hmm.
scientific basis to say that if you look at statistics, because we didn't do a random sample. That's like
Yeah.
saying if I bought Adidas shoes, because everybody in the NBA has size 13 or 14 shoes. If I just go out and buy size 14 shoes, I'm playing in the NBA. That's not true. That's a correlational study. People who
Right.
happen to have large shoes happen to be playing in the NBA, but not everybody. It's not a cause and effect. So we're kind of been the statistics, have kind of pushed a point that may not in fact be truthful. I don't know.
Right.
Certainly with
I
seniors
do.
and vulnerable populations, we know there's a problem with flu and everything else. So that's clear. But
Yeah.
the other part, I don't
I
know.
think when I went to Sport Check today to get my son some shoes.
It's
I've been
open.
waiting
Sport
for
Check
this.
is open.
Sport Check was open, and a couple weeks ago, I thought we were going to see a new normal, which
Right.
means more people being scared of going to restaurants and that. But
Yeah.
after going to Sport Check today and seeing how many people just want to go do stuff,
Yeah.
I think you're going to get back to normal, what we knew. I think we're going to get back to it. I think we're going to get back to it sooner than I thought, because I thought
Yeah.
we might not ever get back to normal. But I think
Yeah.
we'll get back to that normal.
I'm feeling the same
Uh,
way because I think it's changing. I think the virus or something's going on. I don't know what.
Okay, let's go with what is going to happen to our kids' mental health with being out of school and no interaction for 5 months, and that's with other kids. So if this keeps going, they can't interact with other kids. What's going to happen? With their minds of not being able to communicate. I know they can do it online through
Right.
social media and all these other things, but that's not the same as building something or digging in dirt or throwing a ball around.
Well, Kimberly, my point would be there will be some children whose mental health will be better because they're not in school, and some children who will have poorer. It depends on what they're doing. I mean, I grew up on a farm. If you told me I had 5 months off and I could fish anytime I wanted, and I at the pond, and I could get on the tractor, I could do all the things. I mean, I had a lot of fun, but of course there were some sports too. So it depends on where you are. If you're in a basement apartment and you don't have access to outside services, it's going to be a different story. So I think it's very individual in a way. But let's not forget, many children are very stressed by school, and we're kind of introducing different stresses now. But school phobia, children who have a hard time being in that place for 7 or 8 hours. We won't get into all those details. Schools are great places for many children, but for many children, they're not. The question is, what else are they doing? And I think that's what we're talking about today. How can we develop, maybe community-based programs have to start. People have to start doing this together, as Ben's talking about, Ben's Soccer League. You use one of the existing apps. I mean, we talked earlier about having a 5-person soccer game. That's a lot of space to run around
Absolutely.
and kick a ball, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. There's got to be something happening. We're going to have to take some more responsibility for this.
Wouldn't it be great if someone from Kentbridge Greenhouses could chime in right now to comment how easy this virus is spread? I think what he's getting to is that pretty much everybody at that greenhouse, pretty much got COVID or tested positive at one point.
But during the flu season, let's be honest, during the flu season, every hockey team, professional or otherwise, gets sick. They all get the flu. Football, it happens. High school, I know in college, if one person gets the flu, they're all going to get it. The question is the implications to these people. Like, what happens when they did get it? How sick were the folks? Like, was it? I don't know. I mean, I'm asking, and I think they're living in dorms. I think there's a number of them living in. I don't know what the setup is. Do you know what the setup was, Ben, when they?
I could only assume, and I don't want to assume loud.
Okay.
But I think the thing that we know is that, yes, absolutely, it's easy to spread, easy to get. But I think the more important thing is what happens after, right? Because I saw all these people get, test positive. Most of them didn't know, right?
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Well, they say the
It's
actual
only
rate's 10 to 30 times what has been reported, or even higher. We don't know because there's been no random studies in the population. We don't know most of the answers.
Yeah, but it would be nice to know what everybody's symptoms were, how bad their life was temporarily. It doesn't look like there's been any really bad situations, so hopefully it stays that way. Let's see, better be safe than sorry. Yep. So a lot of people are better be safe than sorry. But what are the other problems that develop out of being so safe?
Well, as parents, we're seeing maybe some of the parents could chime in about stress levels, because you love your children, but it's nice to have space from them. So when they go to school and you're at work or home, you're not with them as much. And when they come home, it's fresh and you talk and all. Same with relationships and couples. If one or two of you go off to work, or your partner, and then they come home, you have more to share. But if you're always there, it causes adjustments and stress. So the difficult time with children is that it's stressful and you don't get a break. And you need to get a break somehow. Maybe we can talk about that. But somehow you need to have that break. And now you're not getting that break. and you have to internally monitor yourself, which is one of the strategies I talk about with COVID. You have to be better as parents to sit and say, okay, hang on, what's my stress level right now? And how do I get distance from this wonderful child that I've been with for 3 months now? Like, you need to find ways to develop that. And as soon as we can allow sharing of homes, they call it the bubble out in Nova Scotia, I think, share with someone who can help you with childcare, so you can maybe hand off once in a while. So you can look after those children, they can look after yours if you're allowed to share with one family. So internal monitoring of stress is extremely important.
For Christine, I'm not living in fear or letting fear rule my children's lives. Common sense must prevail. I appreciate that you are offering a voice to that conversation. It's well overdue. And I'm kind of
Thanks,
on
Christine.
her line of thinking there, is that, I'm not living in fear myself. I really don't want my kids to be scared.
Yeah,
Right.
I think we're over that, aren't we?
I think hopefully are.
Well, the reason we talk about
it
with parents, remember, whatever fears you have, and we talk about that sponge factor, gets sucked into your children. So if you're afraid to survive, your child needs to be on edge and afraid. And so being confident is helpful. And the precautions you take, if you believe you need to take more, make sure you take those precautions. But I think it's very much like the flu in the sense of how it's transmitted, and washing your hands, being smart, coughing in your shoulder, I guess it is, or your whatever, doing all the things we're supposed to do is what you need to do, so you have some sense of control over this.
Absolutely. The mental health was already in crisis in our community, and it's only going to get worse due to this. The depression and mental health issues are going to get worse across all ages. Scary thought moving forward with a lack of nursing care funding in this area prior. Now it's only going to expand and maximize moving forward. Do you believe that, Henry?
Well, I think there's going to be more challenges, but I'm an eternal optimist. So I think when there's a need, there's a solution. And I think one of the things we can talk about is one of the things I saw, I think you were part of that, organizing the food drive the other day, which seemed to be incredible. I'm reading about it.
I think I wasn't part of it. I kind of promoted it a little bit like everybody. So their goal was, and they did an incredible job. Everybody, took part. Like, you see neighbors all taking part. It was crazy great.
So Chantel, one of the things I think has happened with COVID, and I'm involved with too, is teletherapy has become more popular and more accepted because it had to happen. So we've been doing teletherapy for 20 years, but finally now people realize it for many things. It's not the same, but it does save time. It helps people who are socially isolated. And I think it's time to maybe take some of our government services and mobilize them, as we've started with telehealth, meaning you can do video sessions with a therapist who's trained, a child therapist. It's not quite the same in some cases. When I'm with 4-year-olds, I have to play in the sandbox with them. You can't do anything like this with a 4-year-old, but perhaps helping support parents. I mean, if we can do this, what Ben and I are doing right now, if there's a service for people that's funded by the government for people who can't afford private services, it's more accessible now. The technology is better. It's encrypted. You don't have to worry. So there's very good ways to do this and reach out more to people if they have access to internet services. So that's a key one. And I think that's I don't want to say advantage, but that's an outcome of this virus, that we've mobilized more mental health that's like this, I think.
I was informed today, Jacqueline here, I was informed today by a lawyer that the divorce rate and separation rate is sky high right now due to COVID. Do you think that will go up?
We're hearing,
no,
there is. We're hearing more statistics about that, excuse me, because of a number of reasons. Sorry. Part of it is that people are in different situations and it's causing more stress. There's also financial stress. And there may have been issues prior that were sort of being balanced and worked on. And now there's so much pressure and stress, they're not staying together. So there's absolutely more and more data telling us that people are choosing this option in relationships, which is very hard for everyone.
Here's an interesting one. Be safe, wash your hands, keep your distance, eliminate handshaking at the end of the game. Soccers are in our home, consumed 5 nights a week, along with social community. I'm beginning to question the mental health of our population. Is COVID our main concern?
Well, we talk about some of the unintended consequences of self-isolation, right? There are people who don't have access to technology, can't work from home, are worried about income and paying their bills. And all of these things add to stress and mental health. So We do need to have more, I think, accountability in how we deliver services to people for the mental health side, because you have to have access to services. And one thing I've learned with teletherapy and telepsychotherapy, it's more accessible now than before. Because if you think you have to call, you have to make an appointment, you have to go to a place, sit in a waiting room, and go see a professional. If you can do it in a manner like this, you're still going to get significant benefit, and you'll be able to take care of that. So I think this is going to be a benefit that I think is only going to grow.
All right. Thoughts on not doing the schoolwork?
How old's Glenda? Sorry, she's not 14, right? She's a mom. I hope.
I don't know.
Well, Glenda, you should know that you probably need to do, I don't know, I got to ask first, how many hours a day are they telling you to do? Like, how much work are you supposed to do as a parent?
For my kids, I believe they're doing about 2 hours. It ends up being about 2, but I could see other kids where it might take them more than 2.
When I was at Michigan State, we had something called the Institute of Research on Teaching. And we used to hang out with the professors over there once in a while. And they would tell us that they were studying everything that happened in a classroom. And one of the questions I asked, how much actual time are children doing school work? And he said max an hour and a half a day at that time. Because there's so many other things going on, right? You're collecting milk money. You're going down to the bathroom. You're doing this. You're going. So I think if you spend an hour or two a day, that's probably adequate. If you're doing, working on the things you're supposed to be working on, that's probably enough. Now, if you're into high school and senior high school and you're doing algebra, probably you need a lot more, obviously. But for elementary school, I think probably 2 hours. Ask the school, what are they telling you? Did they tell you 2 hours, Ben?
No, they just give out some assignments the way it looks to me, and the kids do them. It's
Becky said 6 bunk houses. I don't understand. 6 per bunk house?
About our conversation before there about the greenhouse.
Okay.
The wait times for mental health consultations are already high. What is going to happen now with higher increased demand? Continued to wait and wait?
Well, Megan, the issue is access to services, because we have a number of practitioners in Chatham-Kent community. We have some other psychologists. We have clinics like ours. So there's access to services, but if you don't have a way to get that service, it's private or it's through insurance, then you're waiting perhaps for psychiatry or community mental health, which has a different system. But I think a lot of us think a lot of services in those situations should be provided in different ways so that everyone does have access, because it's a significant issue in our community and many others in Canada.
All right. Let's see here. What are your thoughts on allowing sleepovers for children's friend, if both parents are in agreement? I agree with not living in fear, and it's extremely hard for only our children right now. Do you feel it would be safe? I guess I think here there's 2 things here. There's when parents are in agreement, when everybody's in an agreement and everybody's somewhat knowledgeable of what's going on in the world. Where does this become that line of being bad versus it being okay?
I never understood sleepovers as a parent. Maybe I was a bad parent, but I wasn't a supporter of sleepovers. I mean, I said the poor parents who have to get my kids for, the night, and then the routine issue, and then all that other stuff. I know it's probably not the right thing, but I tried to minimize the variables that could cause issues. So there were a few of them, but I can't comment because I don't really have an opinion on sleepovers. I don't understand them. I mean, I can see if you're camping and you're all out in a camp and you got to stay outside and sleep in tents and stuff, but to go to someone's house and sleep over, unless it's a vacation.
So my daughter loves sleepovers. She likes having sleepovers. She loves going to sleepovers. The parents I've met that she stays over, I like to meet the parents. They've all been really good. And everything's been successful, no problems. So yeah, it is an interesting thing. When do you make that decision of, I guess, it being okay? I think, can we talk about the parents' agreement?
Yeah, what is that? You had an actual signed agreement
it's just
with parents?
I mean, when I as a parent agree with another parent, much like parents agreeing to send their kids to soccer practice. Right. When does that what value does that have over these new bylaws and these new rules?
You mean as a sleepover? Are we still on sleepovers?
We're talking specifically about a parent's agreement with another parent about doing something with allowing kids to play together, sleepovers, going to practice, stuff like
Well,
that.
the problem we're going to have is no matter how many agreements you have, if it's against the law, you're going to get ticketed or arrested.
Right.
So you can have. I mean, I think people, rational people, get together and make a decision. If I say, Ben, let's we're working on the wildflower bee farm. Come on over and help me plant some clover, and you choose to come over and help me plant clover. We have a there's implied consent. You drove over. I didn't come and kidnap you to plant clover at my farm. So we're doing this together, and we consent, and we're adults, and we should be able to do that. However, if we're close, within 3 feet, and the bylaw guy comes by, he says, where do you guys live? And if we don't live in the same household, I guess we could get arrested.
Yeah. Or a good fine.
Good luck with that one.
Some children need the presence of a person, not on a video talk, and wait times are ridiculous, as we have little help for teenagers here in Chatham-Kent.
I would agree on very young children that's true. I think, for young children, I tend to think in a lot of the work we do, teenagers are actually more susceptible to this. They feel more comfortable with this. You can't do couples work. It's harder to do couples work like this, but there's some things you can do.
So teens would be more likely to be okay with.
Depends on the teen. I mean, I personally like working with people in the same room because, as we've talked before, you get a sense and you just make more of a connection. This is sort of you miss that one connection that we can't identify. And so obviously I think the best is probably still one-on-one, but you think of sacrificing time commitment, travel, and now with COVID, you have to really look at the value and the outcome of what you provide people, especially with technology getting better. I mean, we have, physicians in Canada now are doing 85% of their visits virtually.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's got another one here from Kellyanne. It's a big one. My daughter finally had an emotional breakdown today. Misses her friends, says it's all because of one idiot who ate a bat. Huge hugs went out today. Everything she did was not good enough and ended up being in tears. I had forced it out of her. She had her allergy tickle in the throat the other night. Comes in crying, saying she doesn't want to die from COVID. Regarding today's announcement, daycare to open in phase 2 before hairdressers. There's a lot.
What do they got against hairdressers? I see them opening up in other parts of the world. What's going on with that?
I think it's just everybody's got on talking about it, and because of the close proximity I think that's the biggest fear. Yeah,
but if they're wearing a mask, what is it? I mean, well, okay. So anyway, back to this. Children do have periods where they're upset. I try to not label them as emotional breakdowns and stuff. I know this is different, but I just talk about. You cried about it. You're upset about it. Try to use terms that are more a normal reaction to a lousy. Like sometimes when you sit with folks, you say, something really lousy just happened to you. It's normal for you to feel like this. Like I know it's not normal, but it is normal because your child has had their life change and they're hearing things and they're upset. So sometimes reassurance means, it's okay to be upset and cry about this. I want to cry about it too. I've got to take care of you and I can't. No, don't say that. But you've got to sort of talk about it. I think try to make it. My bias is, normal for me is really, you can't see it on screen, but it's really wide normal. So if someone's having some problems, I don't really call it a diagnosis or emotional breakdown. I call it like a thing, like something happened and you're upset. You're a friend just told you they don't want to ever see you again. You got a failing grade in a class you worked hard at. Those are all kind of things where you get upset about that are normal. And so, it's about maybe talking about that, like the emotions that you're feeling are hard and you're upset, but it's actually normal for what we're feeling. And here's what we're going to do about it. And here's what, and then you sort of flip it into, your positiveness because that becomes contagious. And it's hard because we're all getting worn down. I mean, I don't have young children at home, and sometimes you can get worn down with all this COVID news and social distancing and all that stuff.
Schoolwork my girls are doing online right now isn't anything they have learned in the classroom. My daughter's in grade 3. I'm teaching her myself at home how to count money and tell time.
You know what? I always used to do the fake stock market thing with young children, and then we do things like how much did you make her lose, and how to do math and percents. I mean, depending on where she's at, grade 3 is pretty young, but you can start pushing some of those limits. So if you do that as a child, sorry teachers, but sometimes if you don't follow the curriculum, but you're still getting learning experiences, writing, reading, whatever it is you're supposed to be doing, you get a great outcome. So it's, I know we're going to get some flack from folks, but I think some of the material you do in school may not be as crucial as some people like you to think. As long as you're reading, researching, thinking, asking questions, writing about it, and I think all children, we haven't talked about this, I think all children should take programming classes, how to write software. There's all kinds of them from, I guess, very early grades all the way up. And some of them are free. I would sign my kids up right now and say, okay, you're going to do half an hour of coding every day. You're going to be a coder.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I would do. Half an hour a day.
Depending
and learn
on their
another
age,
language. Learn another language. Sorry, learn something else.
I think learning another language is one of the biggest things that you can do.
And with culture, right? Like the foods of that and all of that, and just spend some time on that area, whether it's French, if you're not French, or whether it's Italian, whatever you want to do, I think it would be great.
Yeah. So depends on their age. So my son, who's 12, does 2 hours. Brock does 2 hours. And my daughter does 1 hour a day. She's 10. Yep. Let's see here. They say 5 hours a week and 10 hours for older kids, but it always ends up being more in our households due to the squirrel effect of home distractions.
So let me ask you this, Natasha. Did I say that right? Yeah, Natasha. It's always good, I find, depending on the age of the children, to find out when your child's rhythm is they're most focused, whether they have ADD or if they're normal children. They always have a best time of the day to learn. Usually it's around 9 to 10, depends on the child. Sometimes it's later, but usually, and break it up and do your difficult academic tasks at the beginning and save the fun stuff for the end. So the strategy we use with ADD folks is we talk about 0 to 10, a focus scale, and then we call it self-task matching. So if you want me to edit this thing I just wrote, I have to be really focused. So that would require me to be focused to do it properly. So if I'm really focused, make me do something like that. But if I'm not focused, you might have me do research on the internet, because I can do that when I'm a 10, which means I can't focus at all, but that's kind of interesting, so I can stay focused enough to do that work. Now, that's what we do for ADD kids in general, but for all children, it's the same. When they get cognitively fatigued, a 10-minute homework assignment, as you know, can be an hour, and you're doing most of it. So a lot of that is about, trying to match the focus, concentration, and brain energy level with what you want your child to do. And you can do it efficiently and quickly, as opposed to stringing it out where you've got to do all kinds of work to get it done.
Absolutely. Let's see here. Somebody about the sleepovers. Sleepovers.
I'm sure they're great. Well don't listen to me on sleepovers, because I don't know anything about them.
So let's see here. Children react like their parents. Stay calm and don't talk negatively about this. What's could I, if I acted kind of a little bit crazy overreaction?
How do you mean crazy?
What does that do to my kids?
Details. What do you mean?
Well, if I did, I don't think I am. I think I might be underreacting, if anything.
Yep.
And my kids seem to be pretty calm about everything.
Yeah. Well, my adult children rip on me because they say I don't take it seriously enough. So I'm always optimistic. I'm saying, guys, let's follow the rules. Let's not break any laws. But I believe this will be over, and I think we have to focus on what we can do today and enjoy today. And I think that's the best way to handle it. I mean, I think you have to. It's just like everything else. When you're upset that your child's done something, the best solution as a parent is not to show them and to react in a very calm manner, like, oh, you broke that window. You need some time in your room, and I need some time to think about this. Because if you interact with emotion, we often make mistakes as parents, and how many times have we grounded our kids for life? So you want to sort of take your time, and that's what I talk about self-monitoring right now. It's really important more than ever to know where your emotions are. And if you need a break, you got to find a way to do a break. And even if you have to bring someone over who has self-isolated, I don't want to break too many rules here, but if the choice is not doing the best for your child or having someone come over that you trust, I would rather have you have someone come over that you trust. And the same is for domestic issues. We saw today, I think in London, they talked about opening the crisis center for women and abused folks. I think you need to remember that if you're in a situation like that, you do need to ask for help. You do need to leave. You do need to do the things that you need to do to be safe for yourself and your children. And that's a priority over some bylaw officer who's 18 who's going to give you a ticket. Like, it doesn't matter what the rule is when you're talking the safety of your children and yourself.
Let's go on to Hairdressers provide much more than a haircut. We want to make people feel good on the inside as well as the outside. Clients need us for therapy. I found this, similar in fitness, is that
Heather, you're
most of the
absolutely
personal,
right. I
yeah,
didn't I tell you this
well,
Michigan State story about hairdressers?
I don't, I don't
In
know. Tell us.
we're studying community psychology at Michigan State, and the professor says bartenders and hairstylists are scientifically better at therapy than most of you people will be when you get your doctoral degree and are clinicians. And my buddy and I, who are older students, we looked and said, it makes sense to us. And the young people freaked out. Oh, I'm going to school. I'm going to be a doctor and all this. Hairstylists and hairdressers do more therapy than a lot of people who are trained, because what happens is, and I think I said this too, I used to ask my hair cutting person at Myers in Lansing, Michigan, do you do therapy? And she said, you know what? I see about 7 or 8, mainly men, who come in every week for a haircut, and they don't have much hair, but they come in and they want someone to listen to them. And the mental health ability of hairdressers is highly underrated, which is why I say if hairdressers want to switch careers, they should start with perhaps social services work, become more in the helping profession. Because if they're good at hair styling or hairdressing, it's probably not just because they know how to cut hair. It's because they know how to listen and they can connect with people, which is probably 90% of being a therapist. So Heather's right on. Unfortunately, in our world, I don't think enough people understand the benefit they provide people
Yeah.
on an
I found,
emotional mental health.
yeah, I found when I was doing personal training one-on-one, a lot of people just were there to talk, it
Yep,
seems, right? Versus
absolutely.
wanting to work out in that.
Well, it's a human
But
connection with unconditional acceptance, right? So you're
mhm,
accepting your clients in personal training. The hairdresser and stylist is accepting you, and they will listen without judgment, without value. And
yeah,
to me, that's a big part of what we do. So Heather's absolutely right. I totally agree.
awesome.
By the way, there's science for this. I'm not just, I mean, there's actual studies done on satisfaction, on mental health. There's a great deal. And community psychology is kind of the category where they study this.
Awesome. Hey guys, if you haven't commented already, be sure to throw in a comment in the comment section, and you could possibly win a large pizza and a pound of wings from Konstantino's on Lacroix Street here in Chatham. And as always, keep the questions coming, and we can get to them more and more. And
I just saw
it's always
GR
fun.
said, start selling groceries at the hairstylist shop and you're good to go. That's a great comment.
Yeah. Well, you know what? How do you like? We'll talk about this more on the business
Thanks,
channel
Jared.
there.
Yep.
But yeah, you think you know, put more people on, sell more food, and you're going
Well,
to be pandemic free.
what you
Proof.
said last week, I can't get out of my head when you said if you can buy it at Walmart, why can't you buy it at your local store? That just
Yeah.
the way you said that, I just bothered me. I even talked to Mary about it. I said the guy's right. Like, why can't you buy socks? Like I talked to you about socks. Why can't you buy socks at a men's shop if you can buy them at Walmart? I don't understand.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh, here's a long one. I have heard from the correctional services folks, and they agree the most torturous aspect of the tools in their toolbox is isolation, the hole. It has been observed time and again that inmates never come out of isolation the same, nor corrected in any way other than the fear of going back in the hole. The hole is imaginably far worse than Tom Hanks on the deserted island. He had nature and activities which were not his preference, but necessary for the time. His isolation was absent. Was he? I can't read it here. Was the absence of it just cuts off there? But Henry, is there something about this isolation that is like a prison to some people?
I worked in my first job was in youth corrections, and it was not really a prison. We had great cook for the kids and great teachers, and it was actually a place. Some children actually, I remember a young man coming in the fall, and someone asked him, "Why are you back again?" He said, "Well, it's getting cold outside, and I knew I'd have great food, a great place to stay. The staff are great, and the school's great." That's my only experience. I've been to prisons to interview people when I worked in probation, and they're very not nice places. When you go as a spectator, it clearly appears to be a place of punishment, not rehabilitation. Particularly when you compare it to what happens in places like Germany, where from day one, the goal is you're getting out someday, so we're going to get you ready to get out. there isn't this punishment phase, you know. And I think if and the recidivism rate in those countries is very low compared to ours. So I'm not sure we're doing it right. And I think most places now accept that the whole is inhumane. I don't know what the world would say about it, but I think is it still possible to be placed in the hole? I mean, I don't know. I thought it was kind of becoming, particularly what happened at Exeter Road in London, I thought it was becoming, sort of ground out, but I could be wrong.
Yeah. He goes on to say, so my question for the doctor is, how much of our current mental suffering is attributed to human reaction?
Well, I think it's my hypothesis, and I don't have any science because this has never been studied, would be the uncertainty, the lack of control is huge. Uncertainty is really huge, and economic stress on adults, and just this idea that you can't control your situation. And we continue, and I don't know about you, but I don't like it when people in power keep saying this is unprecedented and we have no plan. That's not really helping the population know what the next steps are. So I think when our mental health is also fragile coming in, or we have a pre-existing sort of diagnosis before COVID, it becomes that much worse. And I think we also were really pushing in communities, high density populations where you don't have backyards, you don't have a lot of places where you can go. So it's a combination of things. I think it's just being in that isolated situation of uncertainty, which increases anxiety, and the lack of control over our environment increases depression. I would start with those two simple explanations.
All right. Embracing my inner older goddess, wisdom lights. My mother, Margot Labadie. Hi, Mom. Why do I always feel better after getting our nails and hair done? Can't wait.
I get my feet done. What do they call feet, Ben? Is that pedicure or something?
I think that's
Mary
a pedicure,
got me that one. There's something about the feet thing, the foot thing that helps too. I haven't had one of those either. So yeah.
Let's see here.
I think the answer, let me ask you, I'm not sure, but I think it's because we're feeling, never again, Mark. I think we're feeling that we're being taken care of, and it's our time, right? So it's our time to be sort of taken care of. And I think, and I think moms and dads, sometimes we do so much for other people, when sometimes we're getting a treat, it kind of feels extra special. And I think that's important to have. And that goes out to parents. When you're in this COVID isolation, how are you treating yourself? How are you taking stock of doing a great job? Because you're amazing. 99.9% of parents are amazing. Think of what you're doing. You're thinking, even yourself, Ben, I applaud you. You're thinking of ways to get soccer to your kids. You know, you're thinking of ways to give them what they need. And different generations, I mean, you know, when we were growing up, my parents were very busy trying to get food and make enough money to stay at a house. There wasn't a lot of talks about, hey, Henry, how's football going? Can I help you with a little league football? Because they were too busy doing 2 or 3 jobs because they had to. So the fact that now it's a priority for parents is hugely great. I'm not saying I had a great childhood. I'm not saying anything wrong with it. I'm just saying that now that you parents need to give yourself the positive rewards for what you're doing, because you're doing it in tough situations and you're doing it to do the best for your children. And regardless of the outcome, it's going to be okay. Just remember that you're doing a great job. So give yourself those props and make sure you understand that you're doing an amazing job.
Do not touch my feet. That's a comment. All right. From Shirley, who won pizza last week.
Wow.
My patients come in. They are very diligent at social isolating and only coming out to appointments only. We must make the most of the time we have together, make them our priority or property. When we allow fear to take over, it can be such a bad demon. Positivity is key.
You know what? I think about dentists because I have dental phobia. The best dentist I have when you go in, and the staff, I have an amazing person at Grand West Dental does my teeth, the cleaning, and I'll only have her touch me because I've had too many bad dental stuff. And the reassurance they give you, that accepting, you know, when you come in and you feel like you're going to be safe. And we talk about psychological safety in children in schools and physical safety. That's the most important thing before children can learn. And even though we're older, we need that too to feel at ease. And I think we're talking a lot about, you know, business and work and getting out and doing. Part of it is, how do you take care for yourself? How do you enjoy every day? How do you make sure you get something out of today that makes you feel special and your children feel special? That can be challenging.
Humans do not like being told no, and I feel longer our society feels controlled in isolation, the more we are going to
Gary, I
rebel.
think adults shouldn't have to hear the word no too often. Children should. So adults, I think you're right. I think we talked about this before. We've kind of rules. As long as you tell us the reason, I think we're very compliant. If you give us the true facts and be honest with us. But we talked last time about, the premier having people over when he shouldn't have, and checking his cottage when he shouldn't have, and the prime minister breaking the rules when he shouldn't have. So it's kind of hard to then say, oh, well, we're in this together. Well, we're really not. And I think that's
Yes,
part of it too, Carrie. It's not the same for everyone.
absolutely. Reflexology. Let's see here. We're Canadians. We don't know how to rebel, unfortunately. There is a big
Yeah.
there's a big difference between Canada and the United States, I believe, with ability to protest or wanting to protest or getting a group together to protest what the government is doing.
But
I
what
think
should
it
we
comes
do,
along
Ben?
much easier for Americans.
What would we if this was Michigan? What would you do? How is it
If it
different?
was Michigan, I would just go about my daily activities.
Like, what does that mean?
You
What do
know,
you mean?
I would just go about my life. But Michigan, I mean, they have a little bit scarier situation in some of the more densely populated areas. But I could see if I was a hairstylist or a gym owner, okay, if that
I'd
was
be
my only
open.
source of if that
I'd
was
be
my only
open.
source of income, I'm definitely getting the other gyms together to say, let's just open and face some
Yeah.
music. Let's
Yeah.
go. So that would be my way of rebelling, is
Yeah.
just opening as normal and let the fines rack up and worry about that at a later date.
I might call a trusted lawyer I know first, get a
Yeah.
few documents worked out, and say, okay, when they come, how can we fight this? And then I would do it. But I would do it. If it was a difference between my family, surviving and being able to take care of people and my business, and I thought I was doing it safely, and I would consult and I'd come up with a way to social distance and all of that to make sure people are taken care of, and I would do it. I would get involved. I think you have
Yeah.
to. You have to take care of your
Now,
business
would it
in your
be?
gym.
I think it would be better if you could get other people in your industry to band together and open
Absolutely.
up as a team, because that would be
Absolutely.
harder to go against. And I
Absolutely.
believe I always go back to this. If Walmart and Bob's grocery stores can be open, there is no reason for these other places to be closed, because they can do it. People are creative. They have imaginations, especially business owners. They have imagination to make this happen, and they will if you
But
give
they'll
them a
they'll say you're
chance.
not essential, right? They would say that you're not essential.
Yeah.
But that
So but
I mean that's yeah.
there's got to be a way to, like like I said on the business channel yesterday, there's got to be a way to convey the message of what you can do in the gym so it's easily understandable to the people that don't go.
But
Because the people that don't go to the gyms are generally the ones saying, don't open the gyms.
but a better argument might be, show me the science that tells me I can't do this. The
Right.
the real like we understand correlation versus cause. We understand, random sample and all that kind of stuff. So tell us what science tells you this is a good idea. And how can we mitigate what you say is the risk to the best and possible way? Because I was
Yeah.
driving in Chatham very early in this, and I saw 4 city workers standing around. I was going to stop the car and take pictures. They're all close. They're almost hugging. And I know they didn't live together. And I'm thinking, okay, if you got all these bylaw people running around, where's the guy charging these 4 city workers who are all standing there enjoying someone digging a hole? Like, they were all close and they all had the outfits on. Like, come on.
Mhm.
I mean,
Well,
I mean, I don't know. We get through that.
Tracy's looking at it with a little positive. If we embraced our situation rather than looked at it as being forced, um, how
Well, I still call
that's
it a
an
choice, even
interesting way
though,
to look at it.
yeah, I still call it a choice. You make a choice based on the information you know, and I think it is a choice to stay. I think it was reasonable to not go out before we knew more, like the first month and a half or 2 months. Now I'm not so sure the science was honest to us, and I'm not so sure there was real science. It was common sense to stay away from seniors, and think about the places that didn't have outbreaks in nursing homes. They basically shut down access, and that's important when this happens, whether it's the flu or whether it's COVID or whatever. But for other groups, the White House got breached. Do you need any more evidence to say no matter what you do, it's going to happen? Like, how does the White House get breached? And our prime minister's house? Like, how does that happen?
Absolutely. So Dr. Svec, apparently solitary confinement is still used in the federal prison system today under extreme circumstances and usually limited to a maximum of 15 days, according to a quick Google search. Not sure about provincial level. So we got people doing research here while we're talking.
Kathy,
I mean,
that's a hard one. I mean, I think there's a, it's the whole, we can get talking about the whole system. I believe more in rehabilitation than punishment, because I don't think punishment is very helpful. Let's get into ethics later, but just helpful. If your goal is to have a person leave a prison and come back and become a valuable part of our society, do you want to make them angry and increase their mental health issues? In fact, we haven't even talked about how many people are in prison because of mental health issues or addiction issues that should have been treated. So we're very reactionary when it comes to this, because, you know, when you've been a victim of a crime, obviously it's life-changing, altering, and can be horrific. So it's a reaction that we see. But I think the issue that you describe isn't so much for safety, isolation, or the hole, as you call it. It's for punishment. And I don't believe punishment's been proven to be very effective in rehabilitation.
Right.
That's just
I do have a daughter, age 23, and 2 kids of her own, keeping the kids busy by outside activities, getting a pool and a hot tub, teaching my grandson, who is 7 years, who wants to go back to school and see friends, winning a pizza and wings. What would suggest best thing to teach my grandson, who is 7 years old? Best thing to teach my grandson, who is 7 years old, Henry?
Well, it sounds like you've got I always go back to work ethic. My kids started when they were 5. They all had jobs at 5. One of them had to carry out the garbage. And I remember when I worked at a place just down the road, someone came up to me and said, "You're a horrible parent. I drove by the house at 7 o'clock and I saw your 5-year-old dragging the garbage out to the road." And I said, "What's the problem? He's getting paid $5 a week. He's got to earn it." And they were angry. I think work ethic at the age of 5, 6, 7 starts. We're not talking a lot. We're talking about jobs, and children will follow you and do it. So some type of job. And I would also teach them the fundamentals of business. You can start at 7. There's some great programs. You can also get them started. We talked before about junior achievement on our other thing, but you can also start a small business with that 7-year-old. Sit down and say, what are you interested in? How does money work? How can you make, you have a goal to buy this video game. Well, you're going to have to earn it. How can we make, and you just try to encourage. I really love the entrepreneurial spirit in children, because all children, until they become older, you can unleash that entrepreneurial, why not, what if sort of thinking. Mm-hmm. And that's the most exciting thing in children. They think they can do anything. And so why not? And that's what I would do. Mm-hmm. I would start some type of work ethic, combine it to business, but that's my bias.
Somebody agrees with me.
On what issue, Ben? That's a pretty broad prop. I think they want chicken and wings. I don't think that's...
that's why I just leave it at that. Somebody agrees with me, and then I can use that. We won't be letting the girls go. Won't be letting girls go far until they head back to school and they have a vaccine. So there's going to be a lot of people waiting until, there's more security.
You think they're going to have one, Ben? I don't know. They never found one for SARS. You think they're going to really find a vaccine?
I don't know. I'm not going to be the one testing it, though. U.S. is jailing hairdressers for trying to make their only living and freeing criminals. Yes, it is messed up, because there's a lot of people that are getting out of jail because of the coronavirus. And that's interesting. People going to jail for operating. We need to make educated decisions. Chatham-Kent should be very proud. We should be proud. We're doing really well. Let's see here. What do you guys see happening in the future to monitor or control this? We see many diseases and viruses that have came and gone from the headlines, and we will still see warnings regarding them. However, my feelings are most ignore them, as they are not hyped anymore. I think this is something that we're just going to have to adapt to over a period of time and deal with.
I think, is it GR? Did I say that right?
Yep.
GR? I think GR's got a good point. I see people flipping the switch back to the old ways pretty quick. I saw it today in the grocery store. I saw some people doing things that we wouldn't have done under COVID, but they're doing it as they used to do. And I think you're going to see more and more of that. I'm not sure it's going to have the life-altering social distancing impact that we're saying. As soon as they come out and say two things, either we have a vaccine, which may be possible, or they come out and say we have a form of some type of immunity where so many people have gotten it, and unless you have certain pre-existing conditions or you're a senior with pre-existing conditions, you're not at risk to be hospitalized. Or even if you are, we have treatment now. I don't think it's going to take very long to people packing stadiums, hockey rinks. I don't know. I'm starting to wonder if it's, like you said earlier, Ben, it's going to be, I look at what's happening in business in the United States and other countries, and people seem to be just moving back slowly, but they're moving back to the same thing. I just think it's going to happen. Very soon restaurants are going to say, look, it's great. 50% of my seats are full, but I'm losing 30% of my money every month because I don't have enough people in my building to make enough money. So I'm going to have more people come in, and
and they slowly creep that other table in, and I think that's going to happen. And I think, again, it's up to the, like, if I were to go to a restaurant, and I know we're running over on time here.
No, I haven't kept track. Holy jumping. Yeah.
But I think if you go to a restaurant, if I go to a restaurant, I'll look and assess my risk, right? I can do that at the door. I can do that, by hearing things and seeing things visually, to say, okay, maybe somewhere else, or this is good enough for us.
But how do you do that if you know the Prime Minister's wife and the President's office got COVID with everything they do? Everything they do. Like the Prime Minister's wife, the President's staff. How can Hank and Blenheim or Ben in Chatham, how are we going to mitigate the risk? I don't think you can. I think it's everywhere.
Yeah, I think the risk is everywhere. And you just have to, I think the number one thing you can do is get out, go for a run, and try to be healthier. And that is your number one self-defense of COVID, is being healthy.
I think that's
as healthy as you can.
That's absolutely
right. And I've been running, I'm running outside every day, and I'm trying to eat better every day. It's not to get in shape. It's to, be able to do more stuff and have less worry.
Yeah, I'm on the treadmill 7 days a week. I get an email every morning with what I got. I do it every morning. I do it every morning at like 5 or 6 in the morning. And I'm old and I hate to run. So, but I'm just doing it for health reasons. I just think, with what's happening out there, you have to try to stay healthy as best you can. And if it doesn't work out, there's nothing I can do.
Yeah. All right. So Tim Hortons drive-through, I don't know when they're going to open.
They're not open?
You
can't do a Tim Hortons.
You can go through the drive-through. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. How can you see a virus? How can you assume that you have that ability? You can't. You just have to take, and again, this is me as a non-scientist, non-doctor. This is me thinking, being what we're told about the 6-foot thing and trying to be healthy. Again, this is the risk that you're taking. Everybody's taking a risk every time they walk out the door, get gas, get groceries, stuff like that. So everybody's taking a risk. You just have to manage that risk. And if you're comfortable with that level of risk, go for it. If the risk happened to turn out bad for you, that's something that you've had to have factored in at one point.
So right? I guess with children, I think the question is, what risk are parents comfortable with? And what can they do today or tomorrow to get their children more active, more involved? Because I really think you should find ways to be safe, but let's try to move out of the house. With the weather getting better, it's going to be a great week. Think of ways. Can we walk on trails, Ben? Can we walk? We can't walk a beach, I guess.
Not right now.
But we can walk the trails in Erie. Can you walk a trail in Erie, but you can't walk a beach?
Right.
Okay. Can you run around a track?
I don't believe you can run around the tracks I know of.
You can't throw a Frisbee with your kid at a soccer field?
No, there's big signs at every soccer field. I've driven by. I found two that didn't have the sign. Okay,
so let me amend what I said. Try to find a backyard somewhere. Why can't you throw a Frisbee on a soccer field?
They just don't. You can't be on the fields. There's signs on parks and fields, baseball parks, soccer fields, any park that's municipally owned anyway. And it's big, bright, and says you can't be on here.
So you can walk sidewalks, I guess, and you can walk nature trails, I believe the premier said.
Yep.
So we should do that if you can get out and do that with your children. If not, look at your community where you can walk. If you're comfortable with masks, get masks for your kids. If not, I mean, I'm forced. I don't wear masks anymore. Do you wear a mask, Ben, when you go out?
No.
No.
Again, I'm not as worried or concerned. If there's a time where I think maybe I should have a mask for that, I'll wear a mask for that. If I feel that there's a little bit more of a threat, if I go into a big crowd, all right, if I go to a parade, I'm thinking, you know what, I should probably wear a mask.
Yeah,
right?
I just socially distance, right? I just keep away from people.
Yeah.
But with
right
airlines
now,
being open, I mean.
Yeah, I find it hard to get near anybody. If you were to walk near somebody, they'd just get away from you.
I do the same
Everybody's
thing.
out there assuming everybody has the virus. So I think it's interesting.
Let me ask you a final question. Can you fly anywhere, Ben? Can you fly in Canada or not?
I think you can fly domestic.
You can still fly domestic?
I believe you can.
That doesn't make any sense to me, because in a plane, everything circulates.
Yeah, I think some have made it mandatory to wear a mask.
Oh.
Yeah.
The whole time you're in the plane. Okay.
Yep.
Sounds like a fun
It's just a
trip.
matter of time till people get sponsors on that. Keep exercising. And we'll just wrap it up here, guys. We got about 2 more minutes here. Minimizing the risk seems to be the best course of action. Not allowing your own dislike this to color your approach. Go out, yes, but do it smart. And I think everybody is trying to do stuff, but doing it smart. A lot of people gaining weight. Craig's gained 20 pounds.
I just want to say, I want people to give themselves sort of self-props and hugs about all what they're doing, because parents especially, and grandparents, and all of you who are taking care of people, and just give yourself, take some time away from all this in your brain, and just think about, and sometimes as Canadians, we don't do this enough, and we're not bragging. We're just give yourself credit, feel good about your efforts of what you're doing and how hard you're working to make life good for your kids and families. And I think that really helps with mental health. We don't take enough time to take stock, I call it. Every once in a while, we should take stock, not just before we go grocery shopping, but we should take stock of ourselves. How are we doing? How am I doing? What was great? What can I work on tomorrow? And how do I enjoy this day I have? That's
Absolutely.
what I'm hoping people do.
You know what? I think that was a good wrap up right there. That was
Thanks, Ben. Thanks, Ben.
That was good.
It's
fun.
Right.
Hey, everybody.
I like doing this, but hopefully soon we won't have to, because COVID will be over. If COVID's over, we won't have. I mean, we're happy to help the community, but what I'm saying is the goal is to have a party. Maybe we'll do our last one. We'll have a party. We'll do our last one.
Hey, that's not a terrible idea.
I'd love to. So,
hey guys, if you want, make sure you go to Dr. Svec's PIreporters.com, where there's a bunch of. Again, could you do just a 10-second on that, Henry?
Oh, just go type in the code 30 days 30 and then DAYS. It's free. You can read some of the articles. We have a journalist who does investigative writing about things in our community, and we also have a section on Business Entrepreneur Weekly where we do 2 articles or 3. I wrote one this week about something too. You can go in at the same code and it's free, and we're trying to support the local community, local business, and just really investigate how they're doing, and maybe we can all learn from the entrepreneurs in our community. That's absolutely. That's free.
And thank you again to Konstantino's Pizzeria, Pizza and Wings on Lacroix Street here in Chatham. Again, anybody who commented during this broadcast will be entered into a draw, and we will determine that winner right here shortly and post it later tonight. But again, thank you, Konstantino's. I think that's what a lot of people are coming here for, that pizza. And
hey, Ben, can we have a party there when this is over, or is it a small takeout place?
It's a small takeout place, but I'm sure if we modify the rules, we can use that parking lot for a big party.
Listen, we need to do something. Next week, we got to start planning something. I'll have an idea. All right.
Awesome. All right. Thank you, everybody. Dr. Svec, thank you very much. And
thanks,
again,
Ben.
We'll be back next week, Tuesday at 8 p.m. And you can catch our business show, Business Entrepreneur Weekly, at 8 p.m. on Monday night. So, Dr. Svec, thank you. And thank you, everybody watching.
Be safe. Take care. Bye-bye.